To be honest, it's not my point of view. It's what the history is saying, and you can't fault
Change it.
history. History is history. Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned 1875. We have got two claims to this land. I mean, as a Palestinian Muslim, for example, I have two claims for this land. We are the first one who lived in this land, and then the Islamic claim, when Muslims came and liberated Jerusalem from the Romans who were persecuting the residents of Palestine at that time. If we are going to go back, I'm not going to go deep in history, but this is very, very important. This question is extremely important for the youths and for the new generation to understand. I'll try to make it as quickly as possible without being boring and as simple as possible. It all started from Yemen 5, 6, 7,000 years ago, when the Arabs were living in Yemen. And then they immigrated from Yemen for agricultural reasons. There were some sort of famine.
There was a flood. There was a flood, wasn't there? Dam.
Exactly. So they immigrated from Yemen up north. Geography, if anybody wants to understand the history of Palestine, which most Muslims should do, if you look at the map, well, I mean, if you follow the map, it will make it much easier for you to understand what I'm talking about. So when people moved from Yemen up north, they called the Canaanites. Yeah. And they lived in Palestine, particularly in Palestine. Some other people, some Arabs lived in Lebanon. They called the Phoenicians. Some went to Iraq. Some went to Jordan, the Ammonians. Some went to Syria. So they mainly immigrated to the Levant, which is the Bilad al-Sham, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Palestine. And some went to Iraq. Now, from that time, there were nobody living in that area. There were no proper recorded societies as in civilization. So they moved there. The Palestinians, in particular, I don't know how many people know this. There are two races,
right?
Originally, the Arabs who came from Yemen,
okay,
and the tribes of the Palestinians who immigrated from the island of Crete to Palestine.
Are they known as the Canaanites, I think?
No, the Canaanites are the Arabs.
Is that Arabs? Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
These were some sort of Greek-Italian race, Aryan race. They were persecuted by the Greeks at that time, and they immigrated from Crete, the island of Crete, to Palestine. That's why when I say, if you look at the map, it makes it easier because you could see Palestine here, and Crete is just nearly opposite.
Yeah. So we can show this in the video. We'll put it on the screen. Yeah.
So they lived on the shores. Now, the word Palestine is not coming from the Arabs. It's coming from the tribes of the Palestinians.
Okay.
They called the Palestinian land, and they lived on the shores. And then the Arabs came as well, and they lived in the mountains in the West Bank. It seemed that the Arabs' number were much more than the Palestinians. There were no recorded fightings among them. They mingled, and the Palestinians became part of the whole nation.
But at this time, Brother Sami, just to clarify that, when you're talking about these Arabs, this is pre-Islam, isn't it?
This is pre-Islam. We are talking 5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
We haven't come to Islam. Came later.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll come to the Islamic issue as quickly as possible. So these are the original inhabitants of Palestine, exactly like the Lebanese. Nobody can argue that the Phoenicians were the major and the main inhabitants of Lebanon, who also came from Yemen. Why should you argue over the Canaanites who lived in Palestine, or the Ammonians who lived in Jordan, or the Aryans who lived in Iraq? So this is the historical claim of who have lived in Palestine.